Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have the background of my shop, which I think looks pretty good. It was messy and now it's not, which is nice. I can finally get around and see what's going on. Today's video isn't about projects. It's not about anything that we're doing on the homestead. It's really to answer a question that we have been asked multiple times across multiple social media platforms. It's how much do we pay a month to live here in Maine, off-grid and homestead? Let's get into it. Now, I've talked about some of the finances that Jen and I have gone through while pursuing this journey and living here. We've done a video on what it cost to build all of our buildings that we have. We've done a video on what the cost of our solar was. And recently I did a video explaining to new folks that this lifestyle, regardless of what you see on social media, it is not cheap. It can be rather expensive, especially if you're building from scratch. That's where a lot of those big, heavy costs are going to come from. But like most people, once you get past that, then comes what you're doing every month, what you're paying, what kind of bills you have. And Jen and I are no different. And so in today's video, I'm going to walk you through what our monthly expenses are. Now, like most of these types of videos, when I'm simply talking to you folks, I've had to make a list because our monthly bills, well, there are a lot of them. And I wanted to capture all of our expenses so that you folks might have some insight as to what you could expect if and when you decide to pursue this lifestyle. Now, there are a few assumptions and some context that we need to set the stage on before I get into the actual numbers. So let's make a few assumptions. First, you've already purchased a property. The property is paid for, you have no mortgage. You've already purchased all of your big ticket items, your solar, your cabin, all of your water related purchases. You have infrastructure on your property that has already been bought and paid for. The reason I want to set the stage with these assumptions is because that is where Jen and I are. As far as how we got here is completely different. And I did do a video talking about what it cost us to build all of the infrastructure that we have. And so I don't want to go back and review that. This is more of what we're paying month to month today, as opposed to what it would cost us to do this from scratch. Now, as far as context is concerned, I don't know if what we're paying at monthly is high. I don't know if it's low. I know that it's a hell of a lot lower than what we were paying when we were in Illinois. And so if I'm doing a comparison to what we're doing here versus there, then it's not even in the same ballpark. The other thing is, I don't know where you folks live, right? So the cost of living here in Maine is going to be different than the cost of living, well, wherever you are. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, I'm just going to kind of go right down the list and we'll talk about exactly what it is that we're paying for. The first item on my list is our cell phones. So for Jen and I's phone every month, we spend approximately $80. And that's another thing. All of the dollar amounts I'm going to give you are approximate. Some might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but it's all in that same ballpark. Some of these are going to fluctuate as well, but we'll get into those when we start diving a little bit deeper into these items. The second one is fuel. So when we're talking about fuel, I'm talking about gasoline and I'm talking about diesel. Now, on average, over the course of a year, we spend about $250 a month. That is going to cover all of our equipment, our tractor, our side-by-side, and the two vehicles. Now, obviously, depending on the price of fuel, that could go up or it can go down, normally up, but it is right around $250 a month. The next item on my list is our internet service. So we do have Starlink. And before I tell you what we're paying for, let me just say I absolutely love it. Where we live, off the beaten path, there is no better service. Because to be frankly honest, I can't get anybody else out here. And It helps when the service that we're using is really, really good, and Starlink is really good at what they do. Now, we are paying $120 a month, which I know seems a lot, but when we first signed up, it was $90. Then it went up to $120. I'm hoping that it drops again because Elon Musk has talked about that in the past, so we'll just have to wait and see. The next item on our list is food. In a perfect world, Jen and I would be either growing or harvesting or raising all of our food. But the reality is that's just not the case. Most of our staples we can get from livestock and we can get from our garden, but the garden is seasonal, and the livestock we're limited on what we can raise right now. And so even though we do stuff our freezers full of pork, we do still have to go to the store and buy food. Some months are better than others. During the summertime, we don't spend as much because we're getting a lot of veggies from our garden. Obviously, during the winter months, we spend a little bit more because we still want to eat the veggies, but we don't have the ability to grow them. Although we do have the greenhouse, we are going to start growing this winter, so we'll see how that plays out. Our food bill per month is approximately $350. Now, the next item on my list is taxes, but I want to wait on taxes till the end because everybody talks about taxes and everybody has an opinion on taxes, including this guy. So we're going to wait on that until the end. So the next thing is maintenance. Maintenance on the vehicles, maintenance on equipment, maintenance on the buildings. This isn't a bill that is going to be paid monthly. It's a bill that's paid when it's needed, right? But I think overall, we are at about $250 a month. Now, again, we could, drop $2,000 tomorrow on something, but then we might not need anything for 6 months. I don't know. It all kind of, that's kind of a wishy-washy gray area, but I think $250 a month is a pretty fair assessment for maintenance. All right, so another one that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but I'm going to talk about it because I had to factor this in when Jen and I were doing our preparing, and that is clothes. Now, you may not think too much of that, but for me, it was extremely important. See, Jen, in our prior life, she worked at Costco, and Costco has some pretty amazing clothes. And when they had clothes that would go on sale that we liked and that we knew we could wear here in Maine for the lifestyle that we were doing, we bought more. And the reason we bought more was so that when we got here and we wore through our clothes, we didn't have to worry about going to buy any. We already had them. Take this jacket here, for instance. This is my second jacket styled like this with the same color. Why? Well, because we bought quite a few of them. So when this one goes bad, I'll throw this one away, and I've already got one in our storage that I'll grab, and then I'll have another jacket. Same thing with socks, underwear, shirts, pants, shorts, all of them. We overbought and stocked these things so that we wouldn't have to pay for them here, because we knew that our income was going to be much, much lower living this lifestyle. That said, there are a few times when we go to the store and we say, hey, I like this or I like that, and so we buy them. So I would say that clothes alone are about $25 a month, with the exception of shoes. We go through a lot of shoes. I go through a lot of boots. Jen has probably gone through a half dozen shoes since she's been here. I've gone through a dozen different shoes and boots since in the 5 years we've been here. We're very hard on our clothes. We're very hard on our boots. So the good thing is very much like our clothes, we had also brought some shoes, but a lot of that stuff has already been used. So we go to the store, we need a pair of shoes, we buy a pair of shoes. We're probably right around $25 a month for that when we need it. Okay, the next item on my list is our garden. Now, what are we buying when we talk about our garden? Well, we're buying dirt, we're buying fertilizer, we're buying seed, we're buying materials, albeit fencing, zip ties, rebar, whatever we might need to have the garden function at 100%. And so per year, we're at approximately $300. Now you could break that up by month, and I think it's right around $25 a month, but for the year, we're at about $300. The next item on my list is one that nobody really likes to talk about either, and it's garbage. See, when you're living in the city, you get a bill every month, and you put your trash out at the corner, or you put it in the alley, and then a garbage truck comes and takes it. Well, where we live, we don't have that. And so what we do have is the town offers colored bags, usually 33 gallons, I think they are, and we can put anything we want in there and then throw it away at the dump. The bags we buy up front, and I think right now we're paying like $4 or $4.50 a bag, something like that. We also have a massive recycling program here in Maine, so we do recycle all of our cans and bottles. And then for our paper garbage, we burn all of that. Overall, for the entire year, though, we're probably at about $200 a year, which breaks down to about 17 bucks a month. Now, the next item on the list is propane. Now, we already talked about gas and diesel, but when it comes to propane, we do use quite a bit of it in the winter months because we do heat our GPS, which is the building that holds all of our solar equipment. Now, we maintain a temperature of about 60 degrees in there all winter long, and the cost of our propane per month during the winter is about $150 a month. Now, during the summertime, we don't buy propane nearly as much, but we do have to keep our grill going and things like that. Additionally, we also have large tanks that we make that we fill up for our tankless hot water heater and for the direct vent wall heater that we have in the cabin. Now, those tanks we fill up once a year, and I think we're about $350 to fill those tanks. We also have a tank on the outdoor kitchen that gets filled once a year, and I think we're right around $100 to $120 a year to fill that. So for the entire year of all of our propane use, we're probably right around, I don't know, 12 or 1300 bucks. The next item on our list is our insurance for all of our vehicles. Now, the 4 vehicles that we do have insured are the truck, the Jeep, the tractor, and Dory, the side-by-side. Now, having all 4 of those, we do have it through one insurance company, and we've got some discounts on that. And I think for us, we're paying $350 a year for the full coverage on all 4 of those vehicles. Well, I think 3 of the vehicles. I don't really know what is included on the tractor, but for the side-by-side and the 2 vehicles, I think we have what's considered as full coverage. Now, as we continue talking about insurance, you're going to have medical insurance, dental insurance, and vision insurance. I don't know where you're going to get it from. I don't know if you're going to get it from the state. I don't know if you're going to get it from your job. We get it from my job, and so it's all paid through by our checks, no different than you folks. But I guess it could vary depending on where you're at, depending on what kind of jobs you have, and so forth. All right, so the last item on the list is taxes. And I dreaded talking about taxes. Jen and I discussed this for a long time of whether or not we were going to share it. But I've decided, the heck with it. We're going to share it with you folks so that you folks know what you might be getting yourself into, at least here in the state of Maine. All right, so let's break this down. When we were in Illinois, our taxes were nearly $7,000. We had a little townhome, no property. That was ridiculous. It was absolutely insane. However, here's the thing. Here's my opinion on taxes. It's part of living here in America. You pay taxes. It's kind of part of the deal, guys. You know, we live in a country where we have to pay property taxes. Now, I'm sure there's some places where you don't. And there is a huge, rabbit hole of conversation of whether or not it's right or wrong. The amount of time that it takes to have those discussions is, in my opinion, not worth the outcome, because nothing's going to change, right? And I don't really care. It's not that It's not that I don't even want anything to change. I just don't care. It's like we have to pay taxes, so we factor that into what we're paying, and we pay our taxes. Whether it's, if the taxes go high, yeah, we're going to complain, we're going to pound our fists, say, oh, shoot, what the heck. But at the end of the day, they're all getting paid anyways. So I'm not going to waste my time. Jen's not going to waste her time complaining about something we can't control. And taxes is definitely something we have no control over. I don't want to be, that's not a hill I'm willing to die on. So having said that, we willfully and enthusiastically go and see our tax person every year to pay the taxes. All right, so what are we paying taxes? Well, when we first moved here, our property taxes on this property were approximately $750 a year. Now, it's important to understand that we do live off the grid, and we live way off the grid. And so I do think that there is a difference in how properties are assessed, whether you are on the grid or off the grid. I was actually very surprised at how low our property taxes were until I started deep diving here in Maine to better understand where the taxes were coming from, right? How they were being assessed. One of the biggest things that people told us throughout our journey here is that for every single building we build, our taxes are going to go skyrocketing. And sometimes I believed them, sometimes I didn't. We have a lot of buildings on our property. However, there are some advantages to the way that we've built them. Like, for instance, none of our buildings have foundations. Well, that's part of the assessment. Everything that we've built is either on the ground, like the shop, or is on blocks. And that matters during the assessment of the property taxes. We are not on the grid. We have no services. We have, everything is organic here on the property, from solar to our water. So we have those things going for us. So what are we paying in taxes today? Well, we did get assessed, and it might surprise you. The tax man came in the spring, and they did reassess the property with all of our new buildings. A lot of you folks were cautioning us and warning us on, what would happen when the tax man came. Well, he came, and I gotta be honest, I was a little shaken up when he got here because I'd never walked with the tax man, especially when he's walking around assessing value on things that I've done. I was a little, I was a little shaken up over the whole ordeal. But what could I do, right? I could say hi to the guy, show him around, answer his questions, shake his hand, tell him to have a nice day, and see him off. And that's exactly what I did. Fast forward to recently, well, we got our tax bill. And to my surprise, the taxes were simply doubled from what they were the previous years. Now, some of you might be saying, holy smokes, your taxes doubled. That's huge. How can you be okay with that? Well, I am okay with it. And the reason I can be okay with it is because of, number one, I believe in paying taxes. I don't believe in fighting them because I don't think there's anything I can do about it. But number two, if I'm paying $1,500 today and I was paying $7,000 6 years ago, yeah, I'm okay with $1,500. You're going to get no arguments from me. And so we're paying approximately $1,500 a year as per the assessment we had this year on our property. Now, if you live in the state of Maine, there is a benefit that you can get through the Homestead Exemption Act. And basically what that is that if you've lived in the state of Maine for 12 months, you are eligible to receive a tax credit on your property taxes up to $25,000 a year. So what does that mean? Well, let's say that you buy a piece of property for $50,000 and that's what it's assessed at, and you live here for 12 months. On that next tax season, you'll fill out a form called the Homestead Exemption Act, and it'll get processed through the entities that do that, and they will take off of that $50,000 up to $25,000. Now, I think for us, it's been anywhere from like 21 to 23,000 every year off of the final assessment of the property. And what that means is that the $1,500 or so that our tax assessment was made at, we only paid like $800, because after they applied the tax credit, our tax bill came down quite a bit. And so that is a benefit here in Maine. Now, do not pour over my comments asking me if the state of Virginia or the state of California or the state of Nevada or Montana have them. Guys, I have no idea. I know the state of Illinois doesn't have it because I would have been in it. I would have been involved in that one because the taxes there were absolutely absurd. But I know that in the state of Maine, we do have that benefit. And it's certainly helpful. It certainly helps out Jen and I. And so we're very grateful for that. Now that we've gone through all of our monthly, and a couple of them were annual, but most of all of our monthly bills, what are we paying approximately per month total? So if you notice that the camera moved, I had to grab the calculator off of my phone to do this calculation. So our monthly expense with everything that I've just talked to you about is approximately $1,400. And that is what it costs us every month on our homestead. Now it's important to note, and I want to reiterate this, that is only for us. That is for how Jen and I have decided to live our life. That could be completely different for you. It could be, your lifestyle, the way you live your life, what you spend on items, and when the types of things that you buy is all going to influence what your potential monthly expenses could be. But at least for Jen and I, that's where we're at. Now, there are a few things I did not take into account. Those are things that are organic to Jen's business, the equipment and things that we have to use for our YouTube videos. I also did not include feed for the chickens, because that is actually all paid for by the chickens. All of the earnings that we make on their eggs, we just reinvest back into the chickens, and that's where we're getting their feed from. The other thing I did not include are our dogs. That could vary so much that it's kind of a moot point. There's also a lot of buying and selling and trading that goes on locally here, with us included. We buy something, we sell something, or we have something, we trade something, things like that. None of that was taken into account either. So, it's important to know that these numbers I've given you, they are approximate. They will go up, they will go down, they may not be there, they may be there. There might be more items, I don't know. It all depends on what you're doing and where you are at in your off-grid homestead journey. But at least from Jen and I's point of view, that's what we've got. So for full transparency, there you go. All right, folks. Well, if you've got any questions for us, we are happy to answer them. If we can, just drop those in the comments down below. Let us also know, what are some of the things that you might be paying for that I didn't talk about? Because I'd love to hear what it is, or what other types of things that maybe we need to start thinking about. Maybe things that we need to start, having some forethought on, because as we continue to expand our homestead, as we begin to look at getting livestock, there are going to be new expenses, things that we may not have thought about. So if you're going through that, or you have those, drop those in the comments, because I'd like to know about them. All right, folks, well, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. We'll see you folks on the next video. Out here at Hanbleceya Ranch, we live off the land. Slow mornings, hard work, and handmade everything.
Every blanket, every pumpkin, every little creation, it all starts here, right on our homestead.
We don't mass produce, we handcraft. Each piece carries the story of Maine's changing seasons, made with care, made to last.
So if you love cozy things that feel real, visit HambleChairRanch.com.
From our homestead to your home, thanks for supporting Handmade.